today's episode of The Cross Legacy. What are we talking about?
We're talking about being prepared on the trip, Mike.
Oh, we're starting that now.
Yeah, we are.
So the step one on how to be prepared for a road trip is have Amy do it.
Oh, thanks. I do love to plan for a trip. I love to plan for a trip. I plan and plan. We haven't been able to take very many trips, so whenever we go on a trip, it's a great big deal. But being able to do the best trip we can possibly afford is always key. So I research a ton to find the very best Airbnb that's in the budget, or different things. But all the things. But while Mike was here talking, and the main thing we wanted to talk about was bringing all the things that we hope that we will never use when we go on a trip.
Oh, yeah.
So the backups in case something goes wrong, is also something that we plan a lot for on a trip. So we brought backups of different kind of things.
Just in no particular order, we brought jumper cables, extra windshield washer fluid, some emergency road flashlights. We brought an extra set of windshield wipers.
Your tool set.
Oh yeah, I brought a tool set, and we brought a collapsible shovel just because I think it's cool, and just some tool set, and then some other random tools like pliers and stuff. Ended up not needing any of it.
AAA for the win.
AAA. What broke on our car, it wasn't an easy roadside. Well, what broke on our car, I wasn't going to be able to fix, and we would have had to go get the part anyways, and all that stuff.
So we were on the side of I-90 in Montana, and the serpentine belt had broke on our car, which Mike did all the service and everything before we had left, and prepared as much as we possibly could for our trip. But things still happen, and I did not want him out messing around with the car, even if he could fix it right there on the side of I-90. It was just much safer to wait for a tow truck and stay buckled in our seats until it got there, which was a really long time. We were there for a couple hours.
Yeah, a couple hours for sure.
We did have the most amazing mechanic in Billings, Montana. We are doing something special for them. Just so amazing. What was the name of it?
Top Tech West.
Yeah. So
in Billings, Montana.
If you live in Montana, you're traveling through Montana, you need work done on your car, go to Top Tech West. There you go. He was so amazing. And just really helped us on a Saturday afternoon, evening, when he was supposed to be closed already. He could have made us wait until Monday. He totally just saved the beginning part of our trip. So I cannot thank him enough, and we're doing something special and all the things. But so it was just so amazing. But we tried to be prepared for everything we possibly could. One of those things was to get AAA before we left on our trip, which we didn't know that we didn't do it quite as soon as we should have. So getting AAA was just an extra step to make sure if we had, a towing issue, that it was covered. We didn't know that you have to have it 5 days before the trip.
5 days. In Washington, in our zone, the service doesn't kick in until 5 days. That no matter what coverage you buy. If you buy the premium, you only get the basic until after 5 days.
So we bought it 3 days before we left for the trip, and
more like 1 day.
Whatever. We bought it in Washington before we left on the trip, and we should have bought it 5 days for them to cover our tow bill.
So check the fine print.
Yeah. But anyways, so if you're going on a trip, make sure you get AAA 5 days or a week before you go on the trip to make sure that your bill is covered and there's no issues later. But we're still glad that we had it. It did give us some peace of mind that day that we thought it was going to be covered, and so Mike didn't want to get under the hood and stuff as much. So whatever, either way, we're glad that we had AAA, and I would definitely make sure that you get it a week before your trip or sooner. Make sure it's not expired, all those kind of things, if you're planning a big trip.
And, some people say your car insurance will have towing on it, and that's true. But when I checked ours, the towing was the first $100 of towing, which isn't really a lot when it comes to towing a vehicle. So
especially when it was a long distance.
Yeah, and that's like for around here, that wouldn't be bad. Like for around where we live, where we're driving normally, having it towed back to our house or to a mechanic shop here, they're all over. There's plenty of options, plenty of stuff. But where we broke down, we were 40 miles away
from anything.
From really anything, yeah. So.
Except a cell tower, which we were so thankful for. I could see a cell tower where we were at, so we had great service, which was really lucky.
So that's just something to think about on road trips. Is like you're gonna be in the middle of nowhere, and it's gonna be like an hour before you get to a town, and you've been driving for an hour when you left a town. So I mean, there's really not a lot in some parts of the Wyoming and South Dakota.
Something else that you got before we went on this trip were lock boxes that he had put in the car, and which was another thing that was just a safety measure. And he would make sure that whenever we went into a hotel or something at night, he brought it in with us. But the lockbox had like an extra credit card and different things in it. So in case our wallet was stolen or something, we weren't totally in trouble being 6 states away from our home. So that was just something. And they were pretty inexpensive to get the lockboxes. And there was a chain that you would attach underneath your car, like underneath the car seat.
So
the metal.
Yeah, so it's a metal box. And it has a cable that attaches to it, and there's just a simple lock. And we kept extra cash, credit cards, and the boxes are right at $20.
So it was just something that just gave us a lot of peace of mind. Like, if we lost our wallet or something wasn't working, you don't know necessarily that like your local bank is going to be in the state that you're traveling through, those kind of things. So since we weren't driving, that was just an extra protection that we did to make sure that we were totally like on the good. And something else we always do is everybody knew what states we were in and where we were traveling when we would stop somewhere, especially when we were having long travel days. I was making sure that I was checking in saying, we're on this freeway. It's going to be this many hours until I check in again, for sure. And so that way the team and my family and everybody just kind of knew, okay, they are on a weird road. We don't know, where they're going to be. And that way, if they didn't hear from us in 12 hours, they knew kind of about where we were because we didn't have self-service the whole time. Right. And so we were trying to make those check-in marks just so people could kind of keep track of us a little bit, and which is just another kind of safety thing. And if we had broke down and didn't have self-service, then hopefully somebody would have started looking for us and knew where we were. So those were like some of the things that we brought, like emergency wise. Again, like the last couple of years being COVID and knowing that things can change, at a given time really quickly of, with things being open or closed, like just trying to plan ahead for things differently than we would have even a couple of years ago, knowing that restaurants could be closed or grocery stores could be closed or different things like that. We did bring more food with us than we've probably ever traveled with before. We did bring like an extra, we always travel with like a first aid kit, but I also brought like COVID tests with us, and I brought other medicines in case we did get sick on the trip, that we wouldn't have to go to an urgent care. We would be okay to stay in an Airbnb for a few days and just get better. So I definitely, in the light of the last couple of years, packed a little bit more that way. Just kind of thinking ahead, going 6 different states and around a lot of people, we just wanted to be really careful with what we were doing. So I always bring different, medicines and different things with us to make sure that we have everything we need. But, that extra step of making sure that we brought tests with us or different things. We did that. And then we brought lots of snacks with us.
Yeah, we can bring snacks.
We did do a video.
Oh yeah, those were good.
Snacks. I did do a video recently saying that I had just found out I was diabetic, so I did not want to be stopping at gas station after gas station, being totally tempted, wanting to get snacks. And especially when we were on these long travel days. And so we did a really good job of bringing Smart Sweets with us, and, different, dried fruit and trail mix and beef jerky and different kinds of things that I wouldn't be so tempted every time we stopped to fill up at a gas station to want to get something that was snacky. So we did have coolers that had fruits and different things in it, but that bag o' snacks was a lifesaver, and we still have some here. It's not like we ate all of them on the trip, but that definitely saved us tons of money, because I went shopping. I actually went shopping like 2 weeks before we went on the trip and got the snacks. So it wasn't like the night before the trip too, when we're like, oh, we want all the snacks. It was like I went grocery shopping and got the items that I knew we were going to bring on the trip. I hid them, and then we had them for a special treat.
Actually,
on the trip,
inadvertently, I hid them and forgot about where I put them. So we had to look for where they were.
They were hidden. We did hide them. And then we had bought a new cooler, because our old cooler was from when we were newly married, and it was time for a new one. But we made sure this new cooler had wheels, and we got it off of Amazon. And so that made it really nice that he could just roll it in and out of the back of the car and drain it and kind of push it back in. And so on nights that we were in a hotel, we just left the cooler in the back of the car. But when we were in longer stays at an Airbnb, then we would take the cooler out and bring it inside, and then make sure that we had all of the groceries in the refrigerator and that were in the cooler. But and we had brought some different bread items that I had kept in the freezer at the different Airbnb locations. So we had fresh bagels and muffins and stuff later in the trip. So I kept them frozen while we were in Rapid City, and then we were able to eat them later. We brought tons of sandwich kind of stuff and stuff for wraps and salads and fruit. We brought grapes in a jar and some blueberries and different things, cantaloupe. I brought a whole veggie kind of tray in a Pyrex container with a Snapware lid that totally fit in our cooler, and lettuce. So any of the airtight glass containers that I use all the time in my fridge, we were able to put in the coolers and then just put straight into the fridge. And none of them, as the ice was melting, had any water leaking in them, because they are airtight. And so there was no issues with broken glass, and we had fresh lettuce and all the things the entire time. And then once we were in Rapid City, when we were 2 weeks into the trip, we did go and get some more produce items just to refresh and restock, and I just filled up those same containers, and so they lasted us the whole time.
We also brought different jackets and stuff too, to go from needing no jacket to it was raining really hard, stormy. Yeah, you just never know what kind of weather it's going to be, even in June.
So if we were traveling when it wasn't June, he said he brought a snow shovel. He normally brings, we have them in the car.
It wasn't a snow shovel.
Well, he brought a shovel, but anyways, he normally, if we're traveling over the pass or stuff too, he normally brings things if he's going to get wet, and work gloves too, in case he has to change the tire on the side of the road. We normally have garbage sacks tucked into the pockets in the car, and different things, just to have garbage sacks. You never know when you're going to need them, but they're handy if you need to lay on them too. So yep. We had talked after we had broke down for future things that we want to get a small brand new tarp, so it's more compact, and then we can put it in one of the compartments in the car. And having a tarp would have been really nice during the hailstorm and all the different things. It could have helped protect the windows a little bit more too, if we were where we couldn't have got the car undercover that was a crazy hailstorm. So it was crazy. I also brought a bag of towels and beach towels and blankets blankets that are easy to wash, like so if we wanted a picnic or any of those kind of things. And I always have pillows in the car because I just sit with pillows on my lap. But we literally, if we needed to, we could have slept in our car. We brought one little camping little tote with us. It wasn't very big. It was like this big, but it had a single burner camp stove on it. And then I brought a pan just in case we needed to heat up pasta and water, different things. But really trying to think like, you know, if our Airbnb canceled or if something this or that, or we didn't make it somewhere, like, do we have backups to the backups and could figure out all the things? And that's kind of what we do with everything in our life. And it just makes me feel so much better to know. So that we're prepared and be able to handle whatever.
I mean, sleeping in our car was not the plan ever, but if
we could have done
if something, we could have, it would have been possible for us. And, you know, maybe you're in an area where something happens with your planned reservations and then everything else is booked and you're tired, or maybe you just get tired, or maybe you...
This was an interesting one. I hardly ever wear shoes that lace up, like hardly ever. Like I wear my Birkenstocks most of the time, and so we went on the trip and I brought my hiking shoes with me that are kind of strappy and are closed-toed, and we went to the Jewel Cave and I thought they weren't going to let me in because I didn't have tennis shoes that laced up or hiking shoes, and so I was able to still go, but I was really worried that I wasn't going to get to go do one of the excursions because I didn't bring the shoes that they wanted, the specific shoes that they wanted for the thing. So, you know, just thinking about that too, that different kinds of shoes that you might not need, you know, they don't have to always be the prettiest, but when you're doing all these, you know, different activities and different things, that sometimes you might need a closed-toe pair of shoes that you don't normally wear. So that was a random one that had came up on the trip that luckily I was still able to go do that, but I could have not been able to. So yeah. So we brought snacks, we brought all the things. So a lot of times, like, we bring backups hoping that we will never use them. One of those was bear spray. So I'm really glad that we did not have to use the bear spray, but we had it. So, you know, just those, you know, what happens if and what happens when, you know, kind of things. But I'm like this too wherever I go. Like when I used to take a car full of littles to the ocean, it was the same thing. Like my car was packed with all of the what ifs and what ifs of this happened or how do I handle this situation, and it just relieves my stress to know I'm as prepared for something as I possibly can be, and I feel like I get all of that stress out before a trip in the planning part of it, and then I can relax during the trip part. So yeah, but I think overall, like, all of the planning was amazing, and we were able to get home and get it all unpacked, and thankful that we didn't use some of it.
Yeah, for sure. Glad we didn't have to use any of the tools, or didn't even have to change a tire, or...
And we're ready for our next trip. Where do you want to go next time? Where's our next big trip going to be?
Well, there's two more options. We talked about one.
Yeah. The
two options left, we already mentioned in a different video, are Texas, pretty big area, and the Grand Canyon. Yeah.
We spent 10 days in Black Hills, just in the Black Hills area. So when we go to Texas, like, we want to, like, spend weeks there and be able to do all the things. And I'm sure our car is going to be just as packed next time, and we're going to have just as amazing trip. Anyways. That's our tips for now. All right.